Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to this episode of Lunch Guide. Today I've got something really interesting for you all, and it's going to be fitting in a couple of dishes that we're going to be focusing on around the continents. And we are going to be focusing on the southern part of the US, the American continent, which is basically some Mexican improvised dishes. And before we proceed, we're going to start by introducing our ingredients before us today. So from the front, I've got a piece of chicken there, about 200 grams of chicken breast. I've also got 2 eggs, 1 piece of lemon and 1 piece of lime. We also have some leeks there. We also have some sesame seeds, some butter, some chilies there, some cumin powder, some garam masala and some garlic. We also have some nice beautiful wedges of lime, some beautiful chili there, a bit of some cheddar cheese. We also have some sweet corn, some beautiful black beans, some pre-cooked brown rice. We also have some fresh coriander at the back here, a bit of some black peppercorns for crushing, a bit of olive oil, a bit of some salt. We also have a bit of some all-purpose flour here and a bit of some breadcrumbs, which we're going to be using to coat our chicken. So we're going to take a short break now, give you a bit of time to freshen up and grab your pens and papers if you're taking the recipe, if you're writing down the recipe for this dish. And when we come back, we're going to dive into it. Don't touch the dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about to start working on our beautiful dish, and we're going to start that off by reheating some oil in a pan. Give that a bit of time to heat up, and while that continues, we're going to go straight into making our stuffed chicken. So we're going to start off by trimming our chicken foremost, and we're going to now proceed to just cutting a slit right through the middle of your chicken breast. Of course, this being a process called the butterflying technique. And all you're going to do is just cut a nice beautiful pocket through your chicken breast like that, and proceed to spread it out. Also cutting a few more slits right through the middle, which will actually allow you to stuff your chicken. And once that's done, we're going to proceed to grab some of the ingredients we'll be using to stuff it. So we'll start with 1 piece of leek. And to that, we're just going to proceed to chop that. Once that's chopped, just grab a big plate and proceed to add your onions to your plate. Follow that up by adding your cheese. So about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of some grated cheddar, and also your chopped chilies. Last but not least, proceed to also squeeze your lime juice into your mixture, using about 2 whole limes. And now proceed to mix everything together by hand. And finish that, of course, with some seasoning, starting off first with a bit of salt and a bit of some crushed peppercorns. Give that one nice final mix. And now proceed to stuff your chicken. So we're going to begin by first cleaning our board. And for that you'll need a bit of some cling film. So begin first by stretching out your cling film over your chopping board, making sure to use at least 2 sheets. So first of all, cut your first sheet out and then proceed to add an extra sheet of cling film right over the first piece and proceed to cut. And next proceed to grab your chicken breast, place it over the cling film and proceed to grab your filling, squeezing it firmly right in the center of your chicken breast. And next up, proceed now to seal your chicken. So basically what you begin by doing is lift the side closest to you and proceed to fold the chicken flesh right over the filling, making sure to give it a nice firm press, sealing all your ingredients right in between your chicken breast, and proceed to wrap right around, making sure to tuck in your cling film, roll it slightly over the board, and proceed to twist both sides of the last ends of your cling film, sealing your chicken right in the center. Then roll it off firmly on the board, squeezing out as much air as you can from the inside of that packet, and proceed to tie it firm. And you can proceed now to tie the ends, fastening tightly with a knot on the first side, and then turn it over, allow your chicken to fall right over the knot, and using your hand once more, proceed to tighten the other end, rotate and tighten firmly, and proceed to also fasten that side with a knot. And then now just set it nicely, firmly over your board. And you can now proceed to actually chill that in the freezer for anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes, just for it to just get the nice, firm, solid shape. So we're just going to leave that in here for a few minutes. And we're going to come back to it in a little bit. Now our oil is hot. We're just going to turn that down and allow the oil to just maintain its temperature, making sure, of course, not to heat it too far ahead in time. And now all you're left to do is grab another pot and begin to reheat once more. To that you'll add 2 knobs of butter, about 1 tablespoon. And to that we'll proceed to add our cumin powder or garam masala. And we'll also be incorporating a bit of garlic. So I'm just going to break this garlic clove. And we're going to use about 2 to 3 pieces of garlic clove. Proceed now to discard your skins and begin to chop your garlic just roughly. on at the smallest size you can possibly can. And add those into your pan with the butter and the garam masala. And using a wooden spoon, proceed to mix everything together. Just after your butter is fully melted, proceed to add your rice. Add also your black beans. And add about half of your sweet corn. And now at low heat proceed to mix everything while still on the stove top. And now proceed to turn off your heat and continue to mix your ingredients through. And just to finish that off, grab a small handful of some fresh coriander and just chop that really finely. Making sure, of course, not to incorporate any of the stalks, but just the leaves. So add to your rice about a tablespoon of some chopped fresh coriander and proceed to mix through. Right, and now you can basically now allow your rice to set for a few minutes. And now we're going to jump onto the chicken dish now. So basically, remember now to begin by starting with your oil once more, giving it just a bit of time to come to the heat. And now grab your piece of chicken. This is now nice and firmly set. Proceed to cut part of that bit of cling film at the end and on the other side as well. And just set that on your board. Of course, keeping it right over your cling film. And now we're just going to proceed to the coating process. And for that, you'll require foremost one large bowl. To that, you'll crack 2 pieces of eggs. To that as well, incorporate small pinch of salt, about half a teaspoon of some ground black pepper, and using a whisk, proceed to beat your eggs, incorporating your yolks and the whites. So whip for about 30 seconds and stop there. Next up, align your bowls in a process that you can actually be able to coat really easily. So I particularly like to have my eggs closest to me, my flour right next to that, and the breadcrumbs, and just proceed to grab your piece of chicken, making sure to hold it firmly, and proceed that now to coat that in a bit of flour, rotating it as gentle as you can in the flour foremost. That's basically just to really give you that nice bit of glue effect to hold your breast together once it goes into the oil. And then proceed to add that to some egg and continue to toss. And finish that off in the breadcrumbs, making sure to proceed to give your breast a bit of pressure while you do so. and toss that in your breadcrumbs, continuously rotating it, making sure to cover the breast completely. And now lift your chicken breast, making sure that the open side flap is at the bottom of the breast, or rather on the bottom side, and proceed to place that into the oil, making sure to be very gentle, not to splash the oil and burn yourself. And now proceed to cook your chicken, sealing it on the bottom end first to make sure it doesn't open up. And you can now proceed to discard everything else. And now, using your piece of tongs, gently begin to turn your chicken over to the other side, making sure not to throw it, or rather use the sides of your pan to help you to turn that, and proceed to cook it on the outside until it's nicely browned. And while that continues, we're going to also reheat the oven. And remember, the chicken might not cook right through, so very, very crucial that you actually throw it in the oven for a few minutes to cook right through to the center. And now just proceed to keep turning your chicken around, making sure that it browns evenly right through. And of course, very importantly, always have a plate on the side with a bit of some kitchen paper to help you in draining your chicken once it's done. And also proceed to lay your baking sheet with a bit of some aluminium foil. And now proceed to check your chicken, turning it continuously, making sure to brown each side evenly. And once totally browned, proceed to lift from the oil. Allow to drain for a few seconds and remove. And now turn your heat off and allow your chicken to just drain a bit of that oil. Of course, turning it occasionally, making sure to dry it as much as you possibly can. Take as much oil, take as much time to do so, making sure to take as much oil as you can out of your chicken breast. And once you're done tapping, proceed once more to lift your chicken breast onto your baking sheet. Of course, having the flap side at the bottom side. And proceed now to wrap your piece of chicken in the aluminium foil. And this should actually aid you in cooking your chicken a little faster. And the cling film will also prevent your chicken from drying out really quickly while it's in the oven. So this is now basically going to go into the oven for anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. And when that's done, we're going to take it out and we're going to slice it open and see what it looks like. But something also to remember before you do so, remember there is going to be quite a bit of steam forming inside there. So very important that you use a sharp knife and cut a nice small slit right through the top of the aluminium foil. And that should actually allow for that excess steam to escape. So now this is now going to slide into the oven. And calibrate your timer to anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes. And basically allow that to continue cooking till it's done. But while that continues, we are going to take a short break, and as well we are going to clean up the station. And when we do come back, I'm just going to give you some few tips on how to plate the dish and just some final closing remarks. But before we do so, see you after the short break. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We took a short break and we were just finishing off a very, very simple dish. But I'll start off by firstly taking out the chicken which we finished off in the oven. We're gonna rest it right over the counter. And now very, very simply, the dish we're making today, as I mentioned, if you're just catching up, we are going to be going around a couple of continents, and on this particular segment we started with the American continent and particularly the southern part of America, and we've been making some very, very simple delectables which I'll just proceed and introduce you as we continue. But so just to start us off, we're going to start off by plating our rice. So this was just some brown rice which we fried up in some butter, some garam masala, and some cumin. We also incorporated in there a bit of some chopped coriander and some black beans, and lastly some sweet corn. So I'll just start by plating that into this nice big bowl. Right, so simple as that. And now next up, we're gonna now take out our chicken from this casing it's in. Just start by loosening that with my tongs. And now proceed to discard your cling film. And now we're just going to proceed now to carve our chicken, and for that you'll need a very sharp knife, of course, and I'm going to be using a fork just to help me to hold that together. Now just start from the one end and just proceed to cut that into some nice thick chunks. Simple as that. And now all you're left to do is transfer that to your plate. Just set those aside like that. Of course, always making emphasis to give a bit of show with the best presentable side, of course. And then just finish with the rest of the other pieces right over the top. And now all you're left to do is finish by garnishing with a few of the ingredients we had remaining. So for the chicken particularly, I'm just going to start with adding a bit of some lime wedges on the side. We can also just add just a piece of chili there just for a bit of garnish on the side. And then just finish your dish off just with a bit of some fresh coriander. Just top that over the edge like that. And last but not least, a bit of your sweet corn. And a bit of your sesame seeds. And just a bit over your rice as well. And last but not least, also just some rings of some leeks. So just cut those diagonally and just break them up by hand. Then just top those right over the top. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very simple way of making your southwestern rice bowl. And I hope you've actually managed to pick something from the show today that you can be able to use yourselves at home. So from my end, my job is basically done, and I hope I've managed to actually convince you to all be a bit more preoccupied about trying this dish at home. And as I said, very, very simple dish, very, very good healthy substitute, especially in this nice hot season of the year, or this March season of the year. And also a very, very good dish that you can also throw in maybe as a special, maybe for you and your loved ones on this beautiful seasons coming up, maybe Easter. This actually works out to be a very, very simple and easy to make lunch. So from the studio, thank you so much for tuning in. I will also recommend that you check out our Facebook page, leave your comments, inquiries on any other particular questions that pertain to the show, and we'll be looking forward to getting back to you. So from myself, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely lunch and see you soon.